No more waiting around. No more, it's early, it's a long season. No, these star players need to get on track at some point. When do we finally say enough is enough? It's time to start worrying. Look, I've been trying to hold off on talking about Julio Rodriguez, but at this point, look, it's been over a month. When is the number 2 overall pick in a lot of drafts, that stud, that 5 category type of player who's going to carry us in fantasy, when is that guy going to show up? Now, the batting average is okay, it's 261, but just 1 home run so far. The thing is, he's not even getting close. Not a lot of near homers, not like he's getting robbed at the track, some bad luck here. Only 4 doubles, no triples. He's just not getting extra base hits. He's basically become a singles slap hitter. Now, what exactly is happening with J-Rod? Well, let's see. His exit velocity is actually still good. In fact, it's really good. So he is hitting the ball pretty hard, but it's the sweet spot percentage that should be concerning. Only 34.8%, which, to put that in perspective, that ranks 112th among qualified hitters. And on another front, his batting average is down a little bit from last year. His plate discipline hasn't been that great to start the season. 25.4% K minus BP percentage. Strikeout rate just a little bit higher. Walk rate just a little bit lower. Now, when you think of last year's version of Julio Rodriguez, you think he was a stud, right? This is why he was a unanimous first-round pick, one of the biggest young stars in fantasy baseball. But we have to keep in mind last year what happened. It really was his second half where he exploded. His first half, he was, again, good but not great. It was all about that August where he just kept driving runs. The power showed up with 8 home runs just in that month. And I wonder if that's what we're going to see again. The tricky thing here is it's hard to say really what type of hitter he is because he doesn't have that much time in the majors, right? Just a couple seasons under his belt. So we don't know. Is he someone who just does better in the second half the year goes on? It's possible. I hope it doesn't take until the All-Star break for him to really show out. But I will say this, the talent is clearly still there, and it's not as if he's really hurting. I mean, I know it hurts when your very first pick of the draft is really not doing much in terms of counting stats. Yeah, he's stealing bases, so at the very least there's that. But come on, we expected a lot better. But I still have to stay patient with Rodriguez because, again, this is a guy that could flip the switch at any moment. And when he does, you want him on your side. I'm going to put the panic meter for him at about a 3. And I know those who actually have J-Rod in leagues, your panic level is a lot higher. I'm going to be patient here. I do think he does get hot eventually. If you love watching baseball and playing fantasy baseball, you probably love playing MLB The Show on PlayStation, Xbox, or Switch. Well, the best place to get those stubs without paying full price is MMOAH.com. On top of their already discounted price, you get an extra 5% off by using code ENDGAME. You can build your perfect Diamond Dynasty even faster by clicking the link in the description below and using our promo code. What about consensus second round pick in fantasy leagues, Matt Olson? Led the National League with 54 home runs last year, only 3 in 32 games so far, and he is kind of hurting you in fantasy because he's got a 198 batting average. Now, first of all, let me just say, I wasn't really high on Olson at his ADP because it's pretty obvious what he did last year wasn't going to be repeated. It's not like the power was going to take a dip or anything changed for the worse. It's just, look, that's probably the peak of what he could do. I don't see him getting more than 54 home runs. I don't see another gear here. This guy just had a great season. He'll still have a good season, but I typically don't like to pay the price for a player coming off of his career year. Now, while we have seen some natural aggression, is it really that all that this is? Like, he's hitting below 200. He's not even going deep. I mean, this seems like he's just falling off. Well, believe it or not, I'm actually going to set the panic meter even lower for Olson, only at a 2. And here's why. He's still doing what he needs to do, which is hit the ball hard. He's hitting it really hard. In fact, his hard hit rate is actually better than last year. He's got the 5th best hard hit percentage among all qualified batters. And his exit velocity on fly balls and line drives is still really good, top 25 in the league. And in fact, his EV50, which is exit velocity on the top 50% of his batted balls, it's also top 25. While the results aren't quite there yet, his hard hit rate is actually better than ever for his own standard, best of his career. He's getting some doubles. They're just not clearing the wall at the rate we want. It will turn around. I don't think there's anything else here that makes me think we should worry about Olsen. So no, he's not going to come close to replicating last year's numbers. I think his April has already kind of established that, but I think he's going to start to pick it up, and you're going to want to see, this is a good time possibly to even see if you can buy low from some panicked owners. Now, if you watch Sunday Night Baseball, you might be wondering, what's up with Logan Webb? Because this isn't the ace that we expected to see. And of course, just as they say, this guy doesn't give up home runs. And he gave up a home run to Bryce Harper. Look, plenty of pitchers have done that. But now we look, this is back-to-back starts where Logan Webb has been bad. He only lasted 4 innings against Philly after giving up 4 earned runs. And this comes on the heels of a start against Boston where he allowed 4 earned runs and 9 hits in 3 2/3 innings. What's really odd is this came after he had just gone 4 straight quality starts, and in all of those, he'd gone at least 7 innings. I mean, he was looking like Cy Young frontrunner, and then now all of a sudden, is there something going on here? Is there an undisclosed injury or something else? Well, the answer might actually be pretty simple. Maybe he just doesn't pitch very well outside of San Francisco and Oracle Park. Each of these last 2 starts were on the road against, pretty good offenses. At least, Boston these days has been putting up runs. Philly, always dangerous. He's actually had this problem earlier in the season too. In fact, it's kind of all or nothing with Logan Webb. It's like either he goes 7+ or he gets yanked before the 5th. His second start of the season, he also didn't even last 4 innings, a road game against the Dodgers. Now, at the time we thought, okay, well, that's just the Dodgers lineup. Sure, that happens. But now it is becoming a pattern. I can't say for sure because I haven't gone in and checked, but I'm willing to bet there aren't too many pitchers right now who have a more pronounced home-road split than Logan Webb. He's only given up 2 earned runs in 22 innings at home. And in the road, it's the complete opposite. So what does this mean? Well, I guess for Logan Webb, when he's at home, the panic meter is a 1. And when he's on the road, let's put it about a 8.5. By the time it's all said and done, it'll probably even out. He'll probably still wind up being one of the more reliable pitchers, oddly enough, in fantasy baseball because he does go out there for sure every 5th day. He does rack up innings. I would just say, though, if you have him, don't feel compelled to start him if he is away from home. Now, what about a guy who wasn't a high draft pick? In fact, wasn't really drafted at all because Colton Cowser, although he did make the opening day roster for the Orioles, wasn't a starter and didn't even get to be a starter the first couple of weeks of the season. And then became the hottest pickup in fantasy baseball and was lights out. But are we seeing that hot streak come to an end? Well, a lot of owners are panicking already. He's been dropped by 12% just over this past weekend. Some people cutting bait because they feel like he's slumping. Maybe it was just a hot couple of weeks. I'll tell you what concerned me is that we saw him sit back-to-back games. Once, facing Andrew Abbott, who's a lefty. Sure, left-handed hitters are going to sit against a left-handed pitcher. It happens. The Orioles, of course, have plenty of options on the bench. But then we saw him sit also in a game where there wasn't a left-handed starter, and it was Heston Kjerstad getting the start. So now you got to wonder, is Kjerstad going to start to see more action? Is this going to become a platoon? Maybe we do have to worry about playing time. Well, I think those fears were unfounded because then on Sunday, back in the lineup, even got a hit. I think this was just a rest day plus getting a chance to get some other guys in the mix kind of day. I don't know. But Cows are still going to play, I think, semi-regularly 5 times a week. Hey, there's not a whole lot of other players who you can count on for more playing time than that, and he's still doing pretty well. Sure, he wasn't going to wind up hitting 400 over the course of the season. He was going to come down to earth, but if you look on the whole, right now, he's got the 15th best barrel rate among qualified hitters. An expected slugging rate in the 94th percentile. Got 6 home runs and 3 steals in just 99 plate appearances. He's been productive. Yes, he's cooled, but I think he'll still be consistent and he's going to continue to play. He's fielding well, which is also a plus because he's not in there for offense only. He's not going to be moved to DH. He's going to be just fine. His average is down to 276. It can come up again. I think some of those people who wound up dropping Cowser over the weekend might wind up regretting it. Right now, panic meter here, it's about a 4. Now, we do have more reason to be concerned about Michael Busch, who was white hot to start the season, one of the best offensive players the first couple of weeks, but now he hasn't homered since April 15th. If you look at the rolling windows over the last 50 plate appearances, he has an expected slugging rate that is the second lowest. And that's what happens when you suddenly don't go deep after hitting 6 home runs the first 2 weeks of the season. That expected slugging rate is down 529 points. And he's coming off of another 0 for 4 performance with 4 strikeouts. That's right, wearing the golden sombrero on Sunday. And that average is now down to 261. So, got to ask ourselves with Bush, how worried should we be with this cold streak? Now, in this case, I'm a little bit more concerned because, Bush being a little more of a free swinger, a little more of a slugging type of player, he's going to be prone to some of these cold spells. And he's, as cold as anybody, honestly, at this point. I don't think that what we saw earlier is, prototypical of what we're going to see from him. But I also don't think that what we're going to see is going to be what we're seeing right now. Obviously, it's going to be somewhere in between. So he's got more power left in him. Yes, he will hit a home run eventually. But I also think that this is probably about right for batting average. I'm expecting 260s, maybe 270s. He's going to strike out a bunch. That's going to leave him more susceptible to things like this. Now, I'm not going to go dropping Bush anywhere. I'm not that worried. But at the same time, I think there are going to be times where you might want to just go ahead and sit him until he snaps out of it. And this looks like that time. And then I want to talk about Zach Eflin, Tampa Bay. I don't think that anybody was expecting him to be the ace of their staff, but he's 95% rostered even still in Yahoo League. So clearly everybody is on him and feels like he should be a productive member of their fantasy team. And he's not really been all that productive, or at least not living up to expectations. I'll admit I was probably a little too high on him. I even at one point may have said he was a dark horse Cy Young candidate. Okay, I'm going to walk that back a little bit, but still, he's underachieved even compared to most people's expectations. Now, he hasn't really been bad, just a little underwhelming. Well, first, the good thing is that in his 7 starts, he's lasted at least 5 innings every time. But despite that, he's got a 1-4 record, only 3 quality starts out of those 7. And in his last 2 starts, he's given up 15 hits and 8 runs, 7 of which have been earned. After last year's kind of second half breakout with Tampa and just being in Tampa, you figure it's a perfect match, a guy with good stuff, just never been in the right situation, never stayed healthy. This could have, maybe should have been his best season, and it just hasn't been. But I do think things could get better. So first, let's look at the fact he's posting a 3.47 Sierra, that's skill independent ERA. And that means that, that ERA should come down a little bit. But the problem here is not enough strikeouts, only 21% K rate. You want more than that. And looking at his profile, I see what the problem is. It's the sinker, which is kind of his bread and butter. This is somebody who wants to induce ground balls and soft contact. His ground ball rate is way down. And, last year he had a run value of plus 12 on that sinker alone. So far this year, minus 3. Right now he's posting a BABIP of 306, which is about 20 points above league average. So, it's not a perfect science, but we could see some positive regression there. Again, numbers pointing to the fact that he could get a little bit better, but I don't think we're going to see a massive improvement. So I will say he'll probably just kind of be what he's been if you average out his career stats. It's just how these things tend to work. So I don't feel like the breakout is coming this year, at least not right now. But at the same time, don't feel like he's going to get any worse. So don't move on from him. Don't sell low. He'll just be okay. Now, if you're underwhelmed with him or any of these other pitchers that you've got that haven't cut it lately, you can always check out my 2-start streaming options for this week. These are some pitchers widely available on the waiver wire that could help you right now.